to go back to one of the things you commented on in regards to your first family reunion. I know there was a bit of a fracas with the estate of Frederick Douglass, where they more so were denouncing any relation or anything of that nature. Could you clear that up?
Sure. First of all, it was not the estate of Frederick Douglass. The estate of Frederick Douglass has never come out against Dr. Umar Johnson. It was two very distant cousins of mine who had been attempting to build an economic opportunity for themselves off of the name of Frederick Douglass. See, the problem you get with dealing with Frederick Douglass, if you're trying to exploit his name for profit, is the fact that whenever somebody needs someone to speak on Frederick Douglass, they're going to call on somebody who has never attempted to use his name for profit, and that's Dr. Umar Johnson. So they see me, I'm blocking their ability to monopolize his name so they can go around the country and do lectures and things like that.
Because I believe they're creating a museum, or there is a museum.
A museum for who?
For Frederick Douglass?
Well, there's always been Frederick Douglass museums, but those are under the National Historical Society. The U.S. parks. There's no private one. Black people don't have much of private anything. The U.S. government owns 95% of every Black history site you can name. So, but that letter that Roland Martin read from on that interview did not come from Frederick Douglass's family. It came from two Negroes within the family who would very much like to get me out the way. They think I'm the reason they can't get paid off of Frederick Douglass. That's what they think. It's partly true, because anytime somebody wants to get some authentic commentary on Frederick Douglass, they probably would ask me, because I'm a blood relative and I'm more prominent in the social sphere than they are. But they also fail to recognize that my work has nothing to do, or very little to do, with being related to Frederick Douglass. I've never been invited to speak yet where they said, we want you to come and talk on Frederick Douglass. It hasn't happened. I've never been invited to speak yet where they said, because you're related to Frederick Douglass, we want to come and hear you. You follow? But they don't seem to understand it. They think I'm the reason they can't hustle Frederick Douglass's name when I have absolutely nothing to do with it.
I've seen, go ahead.
I just wanted to, backpedal a little bit, because earlier we talked about the millennials don't really have it because they're, because of what they're born in, their timeline, whatever, that they haven't been educated, they haven't seen it, haven't witnessed.
And we haven't taught them.
Exactly. So my question was, how do you get them involved? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a millennial. I mean, I'm probably a little bit more wiser or woke than other people, but how do you reach the millennials? And because our generation is like now, like we need it like ASAP. Like that's how it could be a curse, like you said, but it's also
very much a curse.
You know what I'm saying? But it can also
there's
be
no one-day revolution.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But it's also sometimes, as you said, that like they can be blessed on that way, that they can find out things like this.
Oh yes, because they're also fearless.
What's the approach? Like, how do you get to my generation? How do you get to?
I don't think it's anything that requires an excessive amount of investigation. I think you approach the millennials the same way you approach any other generation. The problem is this generation has been allowed to develop socially, politically, without any type of direction from the elders. I think that would mark this generation apart from the previous ones. And a lot of that is the elders' responsibility. If you go back to the rebellions that took place in Ferguson, Baltimore, all across the country, Charlotte, we saw a divide between the youth and the elders. And that divide was very obvious. And the reason that divide existed is because the youth who were fearless wanted change now. And that's where that urgency of now is a benefit to the millennial generation. But they also saw that their parents and their grandparents were scared to challenge, not passive, scared to challenge the power structure. So if I'm a youth, and my job is to look to you for guidance, but I see you're scared to challenge the entity that's threatening my very survival, how can I respect you? The youth, because they have not yet been taught to be cowards, okay, they cannot respect anyone who is a coward. And the reason why we keep on having these conversations about why the youth don't respect the elders is because the elders haven't given them a reason to. You can't have the police out here shooting us like this and you won't do nothing about it. Have you noticed the black church missing in action? Our national black leaders missing in action. NAACP and Urban League on the issue of police genocide, missing in action. The black fraternities and sororities, missing in action. The black professional organizations, missing in action. For all intents and purposes, our youth are out there by themselves. alone and naked, facing those firearms. And it's a shame because the adults are scared. We want to protect our car note. We want to protect our Mercedes Benz. Yep. We want to protect our little retirement plan we got coming up. That's how weak black people have become. Things are more important than life. And it's an embarrassment to say that because we were the original people who value life more than things.
No, he's absolutely right. I mean, I just last week, I had a young brother at a studio, and I confronted him for just something that he was doing. You know, he got upset, the whole nine, and he went and checked to see whoever I was. But this young brother actually came back to me and apologized and said, you know what? He was telling me in my era, I had older uncles and people around the neighborhood checking me if I was getting out of line. He said, they don't have that. He said, we don't got nobody checking us. So when you check me, it's unfamiliar. So I got to defend myself. It's like, you know, he gets into defensive action. So I just brought that story up just to reiterate it. You were 100% right.
Here's the thing. The youth crave the direction and the structure.
I see it when
what is a gang? You know, a gang is nothing but a surrogate family. A gang provides a youth with everything you wish you had at home. You want your parents to tell you what to do and what not to do. You want to know that there's consequences if you don't come in on time because you know that they care, that they were up waiting for you to come through the house. You don't want to live in a house where you can come and go as you please. There's no structure in that. So when the structure is not provided in the home, they leave the home in search of that structure, and it takes them to gangs. And gangs provide them with identity. Gangs provide them with a mission. Gangs provide them with the love, with the structure, with the discipline. Everything you need from mom and dad, you can get it in the gang. So there would be no gangs if moms and dads were on their job. But let me clarify that because I don't believe in just blaming the parents because I'm thinking as a black community, we've gotten away far too long with blaming parents. We believe that it takes a village. But every time you hear conversations on black boys, it's always about the mother. Why in the hell are we going to blame a single parent mother for everything going wrong with our children in the school system? You must blame all the stakeholders. The mother is a stakeholder, but so is the pastor of the mega church, who we give $14 million to every Sunday, who has a congregation full of certified and licensed teachers who are doing absolutely nothing to battle the miseducation machine. How can you possibly blame a mother, but you don't blame the pastor that the mother gives all her disposable income to?
So I have a question. So spiritually, so what do you as a people, because I have a Christian mother and a Muslim father.
So did I.
So what do you think, who do we pray to? Who's best for us? Because what I understand from what my dad explained to me is the Bible was meant to control us because that's not our God. He's human.
Okay. First of all, we're older than Islam and Christianity.
Okay.
That's number one.
First, we was first.
Yeah, so that's why I disagree.
Organized.
Yeah.
So who do you pray to?
But stay with me.
Okay.
There is no one name that you can use to describe supreme consciousness because supreme consciousness existed before us. So how can we name that which predated our own origin?
I understand.
Okay. So with that being said, whether you want to say Allah, Jehovah, Amin Ra, Chukwu, Nyame, Olodumare, any name is sufficient if it relates to you because you cannot really name that which is unnameable. Okay. It's the same thing when we get into conversations of what to call ourselves. People say, are we African? Are we Moors? Are we this? Are we that? We are all that and much more. Because if you cannot name God, because God is above any name, then God's first people is also above one name.
Okay.
So any of them are sufficient. It's about what's relevant to you.
Okay.
You see, I don't think African people have to particularly belong to any spiritual or religious system. But I think you, as an individual, have to build your relationship with supreme consciousness. And the problem is we have been convinced that you have to buy into a cookie cutter already pre-established religion in order for you to find your way back to consciousness, and you don't. You don't need religion to find God. Okay, religion can be a bridge to that relationship, but it can also be a hindrance. I've seen people who didn't find God till they left the church, didn't find God until they left the masjid. On the flip side, I've seen people not be able to find God until they joined up. So it's all about what's best for you. What I look for, because as Pan-Africanists, we believe in freedom of religion. It's how that religion benefits our struggle. In other words, if you Muslim and your Islam allows you to fight next to your brother for the liberty, freedom, and justice of African people, I have no problem with your Islam.
Okay.
On the flip side, if your Christianity tells you that you are not allowed to participate in any race-based struggle, even if it is for the survival of your people, and that you're not allowed to see racism for what it is because you believe in a colorblind God, then your religion has just become an enemy of our struggle, and I will reject it. So it's not what you believe, it's the political behavior that manifests from those core beliefs.
I agree.
Now, as a rule, though, if I had to take a vote and somebody said, listen, there's no in between. You either have to say we should keep religion or get rid of it. Let's just say we had to take a vote.
Okay.
And you either had to get rid of religion or keep it, I would get rid of it. When you look at the role that religion has
But if
played,
you had to choose, what would you choose?
I'm getting rid of it.
If you
We
had to
would-
choose Christianity,
Oh, I'm not neither.
You're above.
No. If I'm going to choose anything, I'm going to choose traditional African spiritual systems. Me, myself, I practice Ifa, which is the system of the Yoruba of the Nigeria.
Okay.
You follow? So I'm
I'm
going
on
to go
it.
with an African traditionalist system because we were dealing with God way
Way
before
before.
Abraham, Jesus, and Muhammad were born.
Absolutely.
So we don't need none of those,
Okay.
although I can respect people who choose to walk that path.
Absolutely.
I have a question from someone at the home off of Facebook Live. They basically they're asking if you're familiar with John Henry Clark, and if so, what do you think is the, you know what I'm saying, your connection of values, or what do you disagree with him, or just a little
I don't
quick
disagree
snippet?
with him at all. John Henry Clark was the last of the great revolutionary Pan-African nationalists. We are of the same ideology. So he is someone that I think everyone should study, along with the late, great Dr. Amos Wilson, who I think was the greatest black psychologist of all time, but probably the greatest practical scholar of the modern age. So though Dr. Yusuf bin Yakinen, another Pan-African nationalist, we are all brothers within the same political ideology. He said the only solution to the problems we have is revolutionary Pan-African nationalism. Period, point blank, in the story. Islam ain't saving us, Christianity ain't saving us, integration ain't saving us, democracy ain't saving us. First of all, black people need to understand something. If voting could change anything for you, it would be illegal.
People out there, and you be getting on me when I get the word. I keep telling you.
Now, let me clarify though. Let me clarify.
Yeah, let him finish now. Let him finish.
Let me
You be in the
clarify.
line voting?
Voting can be an effective tactic. One item on a menu of items that we use in pushing for our liberty. It cannot be the be-all, end-all.
No.
It is not a way of life, and it will only benefit you if we lock our votes together and vote as a community. We cannot vote as individuals. White people love when you do that. Negroes love when you do it too. Because if you take where we are now, Broward County, if all the black folk in Broward County are voting as individuals, no matter who gets in office, they don't have to be accountable to you. Because the vote is so scattered and helter-skelter. You understand? I don't have to be accountable to y'all because y'all didn't vote as black people. Y'all voted as Democrats and Republicans. But if you tie that together and say, we as a people,
This group.
are voting this way,
right.
now they got to be accountable because if they don't deliver, they know you can replace them the next election. So what I'm saying is if we're going to vote, make it count and organize it. But to tell people to just go and vote because your ancestors died for it, that's ridiculous. But I also want to clarify the historical record. Our ancestors did not die for us to vote. They died for freedom. The vote was the tactic in their lifetime that they thought was most likely to deliver that freedom.
Yeah.
So now, in this day and time, we get to reevaluate and determine what do we think the tactic is that is most likely to deliver that freedom. Don't confuse the goal with the tactic to achieve it.
Oh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, even with another question I've just been on my mind lately is, along with yourself, Jason Black, Tariq Nassi, I've noticed that a lot of these platforms that come up in, empowerment platforms that you got, I even hashtag them. Where's Umar? Where's Jason? Where's, you know what I'm saying? So I get the sense that they're very afraid of all you guys being unapologetic and coming to where I think can actually spearhead something real powerful. Like a lot of these platforms, like look at even First Take. You're there. You want to talk to Lil Wayne about sports, you know what I'm saying, or about something that's happening, you know what I'm saying, with the community, but you don't get gentlemen like yourself and Jason Black.
They can allow that risk. Adolf Hitler, who probably masterminded the modern propaganda machine through
yeah.
Joseph Goebbels, his psychologist, who created the whole philosophy of the blue-eyed, blonde-haired, superior white male. Hitler basically taught that the worst thing you could ever do is allow the oppressed to be given an opportunity to tell their narrative. If you notice, you're never allowed to tell your narrative. The corner boy never tells his narrative. The single black mother never tells her narrative. They go and get a bourgeois Negro to tell your narrative for you because they know they're not going to represent it accurately. That's why they have these buffers.
Ben Carson.
You see, they'll get Michael Eric Dyson, no disrespect. Cornel West, no disrespect, but you're not unapologetic and you're handcuffed to integrationism. And that's the only narrative you hear parroted. So when people around the world want to know about the black reality, they never get the truth of it because it's always being funneled through selected Negroes, not black leaders leading blacks.
Yeah, no, and I would like to add Big Killer Mike out of Atlanta to that as well. Like I just, you guys that I absolutely call big fellas, y'all walk and talk and stand like big fellas. So definitely commend you and all the rest of them.
And shout out to those brothers.
Yeah. No,